Welcome to episode 700 of the Entertainment 2.0 podcast, brought to you by thedigitalmediazone.com. I'm Josh Pollard.
And I'm Richard Gunther, and this is the show that puts you in control of your favorite movies, music, shows, and games, this time from Las Vegas at CES 2026.
Yes, my first year back in a while. And if you are normally an audio listener, but you were watching this on YouTube, you would already know that we're at CES because we're not in our homes and there's a big thing that says CES behind us.
We have the big CES vanity wall. Woohoo!
Yes.
Yeah, kind of behind the scenes stuff. We always usually get some space to record here, and we have a really nice space this year with our own stage and our own wall and some storage. And the best part is that we're not across from Earthquake Audio this year.
That is a nice change of pace, but there's still an audio distraction.
Oh, there is.
We're near a karaoke booth.
Yeah.
Fortunately, not that close. Not so close that you're going to hear this. But if you see us cringing on the YouTube video, we haven't heard much good karaoke. In fact, we've heard no good karaoke.
It has not been good.
Yeah.
No.
So our episodes from CES, we always do this a little bit differently. We're not going to do listener feedback. We're not going to talk about what's been going on in our entertainment centers. Instead, we're just going to talk about what we've been seeing over the last few days at CES. So if you do want to send us some feedback about this show, our email address, entertainment20@thedigitalmediazone.com. So Richard, let's start where we always start, and that's with video. And when it's CES, that means TV. We got to talk about the TVs. The big new trend this year, all the big guys are talking about it, micro RGB.
Yeah, not micro LED.
No. And maybe I need to spend like 30 seconds explaining all of the differences because there are so many now. Micro RGB is a new version of micro LED, which see, even I'm screwing it up. Micro RGB is a new iteration of mini LED. It's still mini LED technology, but where mini LED TVs typically have a white or a blue backlight, micro RGB TVs use individual RGB lights to produce even more accurate colors. That's the idea here. You're going to get even more accurate colors. If you want to get nerdy on it, what they're trying to hit is 100% of the BT 2020 color spectrum. If you know what that is, cool. If you don't, it just means they're trying to eke out every possible color that is possible in the 4K color spectrum.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about a couple of them today. Some of them are pretty impressive, and others are, well, I'm not quite so sure.
Yeah. It's a really interesting space. So that's what it is. Let's jump into, we're really going to focus on three manufacturers. We got to see all of the latest sets from TCL, LG, and Hisense. We always have to go see the Hisense booth because Richard is, for some strange reason, really fascinated with their projectors. So I don't know why I have them in this order. We're just going to start with TCL. I think we normally start with LG because they're kind of always our favorite, but we're going to start with TCL because TCL has a micro RGB TV, but it's not really their main focus.
Right.
And when I spoke with one of their representatives about it, he was talking about how great it is at color reproduction and all of that. But he was also pretty honest that, there's a possibility for color bleeding and things like that in these micro RGBs that, yes, you might be getting all of the colors that maybe you haven't been able to see on previous TVs, but there could be blurring of the colors in certain situations.
And now, that does make sense based on the technology.
I didn't notice that in anything, but I think that actually goes to my bigger point about micro RGB TVs is, has anyone ever been watching a TV who isn't like a color correction specialist and thought, this just doesn't look like the right shade of blue?
Well,
like in the last few years. I mean, not, discount like all of the old LCD TVs and stuff like that. Like generally high-end TVs right now, they look like the colors really look good. Really good to me.
Really good. Yeah. I mean, I think it is about color accuracy, and they're talking about color accuracy. And that means a lot to people, particularly if you're creating some sort of home media space or something. I think it gets a little bit less important if this is just going to be slapped in a wall in some bright room in your home.
Right.
Right. So this isn't for every application. It's for very specific use cases. And I think, as we'll find out, if you have the money, then this seems to be the big new thing.
Yes. We'll come back to the money aspect of this because, I mean, no one was really talking prices on the micro RGB TVs. So if TCL wasn't super focused on micro RGB, let's talk about what they were focused on. This is one that I'm absolutely going to have to look at my notes every time I say it because it's yet another set of initials and all of that I've really struggled with. Now they've got what they're calling mini SQD TVs. It's the SQD actually stands for super quantum dot. So this is essentially the next generation of QLED mini LED TVs.
Super quantum.
Super quantum. That is kind of fun to say, actually. And I'm not going to get into all of the details of how all of this works, but it's the next generation of quantum dot LED TVs with a focus on color accuracy. And so TCL is saying that with these new mini SQD TVs, they're hitting 100% of the BT 2020 spec. Same as what you're theoretically getting out of these micro RGB TVs, but with a more traditional technology behind it.
Yep.
And the other thing that I was impressed about by TCL is in their booth, they actually had 3 TVs set up side by side, all displaying the same thing at the same time. Last year's mini LED TV, their top of the line one, their new mini SQD TV, and their micro RGB TV, all in a row so that you could see them heads up. Like, no one ever does this.
Yeah.
They never do this. And, you know, we were standing there with some of our friends, and I was like, all right, which one do you all think looks the best? No one picked the micro RGB TV.
Right.
No one. In fact, someone picked last year's mini LED.
That was me.
I don't understand why.
So maybe it was an angle thing for me, but from my perspective, looking at the different pictures, it seemed like, what was the other one? Was the first one?
The one in the middle was the mini SQD.
What was the far left?
Far left was the micro RGB.
So the micro RGB to me it looked a little bit washed out comparatively.
Yeah.
Now it it seemed like it had a little bit more contrast visibility as a result of that. But in the super quantum LED version in the middle, I was saying this as we were looking at this. I already find some HDR content to be hard to look at because it can be so bright. And the really bright parts can sometimes overshadow out, kind of like make it hard to look at the really darker parts or the slightly darker parts. And so I found it has 10,000 nit peak brightness and seriously saturated color. And I found that all just a little bit too much. It was almost like, and maybe it was, running in vivid mode. And I would never run my television that way.
Right.
Whereas last year's model, the colors to me, whereas they weren't quite as good in terms of the contrast, the colors looked more realistic to me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that mini SQD TV was so incredibly bright. So bright that at times, when I was really trying to analyze the contrast, I couldn't tell if the TV had some blooming going on or if it was from the brightness being seared into my eyes.
Right.
It was that bright. Like 10,000 nits of brightness is out of control for a television and maybe too much. Richard definitely thought it was too much.
I did.
So, but it looked fantastic. And the contrast, when it wasn't playing with my eyes, also looked really, really good. And so I asked the guy, the contrast on this is amazing, almost at OLED levels. How many local dimming zones does this TV have? We were looking at an 85-inch model. It had 20,000 local dimming zones.
Yeah.
That's off the charts compared to anything else that we've seen for a realistic consumer TV.
Yeah, and I was trying to do the math in my head and kind of ran out of steam trying to figure out how far apart they were then, if that's the case.
Yeah.
But that's an insane number of dimming zones.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, TCL, as does many of the better manufacturers of this technology, these aren't just on and off like they were in the old days. They actually dim with the content as it's moving. And so you get really accurate light behind each of these 20,000 zones on the picture.
Yeah. Yeah. It looked absolutely beautiful. This TV is coming out this year, and it will be their top of the line model, not the micro RGB. The mini SQD will be their top of the line model, and those start at $7,000. So
yeah,
but they're all big. Like, they're also starting at 75 inches.
Right.
So that is in line with the top of the line OLEDs from LG and maybe not Sony, because theirs are always even more expensive.
Right.
All right, so let's move on to LG. The biggest thing they wanted to focus on was it was like Throwback Thursday at the LG booth. They were like, "Hey guys, have you heard of the wallpaper TV?"
Yes, as a matter of fact, about 7 or 8 years ago.
Right. So, what did you think of this new wallpaper TV?
So it's a next generation product, and what they've done here is they've incorporated the wireless content delivery that we've talked about in the past. So instead of having an HDMI cable, it's all wireless. There has to be a box with direct line of sight to a receiver on the bottom edge of the television. So you would put it on a console underneath where you have this on your wall. But the concept, in case you forget, because we haven't talked about this in a while, because they stopped making them for a while,
right,
is that this very thin 6 millimeter thick substrate applies to your wall, applies to a like some sort of adherence film that goes on your wall. And then the only thing you have to get to it is power. And they say they have what they say is an in-wall rated power delivery cable, so that it's a wire-free look when you put this on your wall, because otherwise it would be kind of ridiculous.
Right.
But the idea is it ends up looking like there's just a poster on your wall that has these brilliant moving pictures, right? It's a good TV. It's always looked beautiful.
Yeah, because it's an OLED.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's improved over the years, just as they've improved their other OLEDs. So I think it's a cool concept. I think the challenge with this type of product is that you can't just go putting this on a brick wall. It has to be on a perfectly flat surface. And even most new build homes with brand new drywall don't have perfectly flat walls, because contractors notoriously we'll just fix this with some mud. And if you actually took a laser line across your wall, would probably see that it's not exactly flat in all places. So I think it's probably going to be relegated to the pro space. I don't see people buying these at Best Buy and putting them up themselves.
Right. Yeah, probably not. But because they're OLED, they do look really, really good. It was still really bright.
Yep.
Even when they lit up that room. But yeah, the thinness is unbelievable. Like that's thinner than the phones most people are using at this point. So yeah, it's
like half the height of my pinky or something. I mean, it's really, yeah.
Very hard. Like, I tried taking photo and video of this. It's really hard to photograph because it's so thin.
You can't focus on the edge of it.
No, it's crazy. Those are coming out. It is real. They will be coming out in Q2 in 75 and 83 inch models, but they didn't tell us how much they were going to cost. I'm sure it's going to be a ton. Okay.
Yeah, and this is probably a good time to remind people about what CES delivery estimates mean. I see Q2, and I expect that means sometime this year.
I think that with these major manufacturers and products that aren't completely brand new and stuff, like, I'm willing to give them more like a Q3 instead of a Q4. But Yes, in general, I'd like double the estimates that most people give us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so LG did have micro RGB sets. They were really big. And when I spoke with their TV guy, that was really his push too. Like, I mean, he was excited about their micro RGB sets and of course talked about the color accuracy and all of that. But he's an OLED guy too at heart. And he was saying that really their push is if you want a really great TV and you want a really big TV and the cost of an 85-inch OLED is just a little too much for you to bear, then that's where these micro RGB sets sit. And I get that, but also if I was looking at TCL, I'm not going to be going and looking at theirs, but then I don't know. Like, I think it's going to be better, but I still haven't seen a micro RGB TV on the show floor that I liked more than the higher end regular mini LEDs.
Right.
So while micro RGB is the thing that everybody's talking about, I don't think it's the thing that most people are really going to be buying over the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Even from LG. Now, one thing that I did want to talk about with LG, we really went down the rabbit hole when we were talking about the OLEDs and the new processors inside of them. And I don't normally get all that excited about the processing and whatnot of these TVs because at the end of the day, we actually really want less processing. We want to see exactly what that picture is supposed to be, especially if we're watching like a 4K Blu-ray, right? But what they told me is in this new engine, and there's now 2 chips in these TVs instead of 1 because they've got that much processing to do now.
Yep.
That what they wanted to solve was, can we build upscaling of both the resolution and the dynamic range to be able to take a lower res standard dynamic range signal and make it look as good as an actual 4K signal with HDR. And they say that they took 2 TVs. One of them had a regular 4K HDR signal coming into it. And then this TV with this new processing features enabled with a 720p signal and standard dynamic range, and showed it to a bunch of their salespeople. Didn't tell them what the actual differences were. And the salespeople all said, that one over there that's doing all of the upscaling looks better. And I think for guys like you and I, and probably most of the people listening to us at home, they're thinking, yeah, right, I don't want upscaling, I don't care. But they do have a really good use case for it. What he pointed out was all of these subscription video services that we're paying for, and they were all complaining about keep getting more expensive every month.
Right.
They charge more for 4K
Yep.
and for HDR.
Yep.
I think it's almost $10 a month more to get 4K and HDR on Netflix. And so with this functionality, in theory, you could get the same experience or better with the Netflix standard line than paying for Netflix Premium, I think it's called, that gets you the 4K.
Yeah. I mean, it's technology we've been seeing evolve over the past few years. And I hate to admit it, but it is kind of legit AI that's doing this, because it's analyzing the content on the screen and computing the appropriate upscaling necessary. You mentioned both resolution and dynamic range. So what that means is taking standard definition or standard dynamic range and making it HDR content.
Right.
It's kind of amazing. And it has to do that based on the content. It has to do that based on, are we looking at hair or fur? Are we looking at a face? Are we looking at foliage? Are we looking at the sky, clouds? It's all handled differently. So it has been improving significantly over the years. I'm kind of shocked it's so good that they can't tell the difference, or that they think the new stuff is better.
Right.
I'm frustrated that we can't verify what they say. And you put it that way, they say, because there's no demo of that here.
Right. So the other thing that I do want to point out with that functionality, because so many of the hardcore TV people are like, I don't care about auto upscaling and all of that stuff. The reality is, most of the content that we're watching isn't 4K. If you're watching TV, it's not 4K. If you're watching a lot of streaming services, it's not 4K. But you bought a 4K TV. So you should be interested in this technology being good, because it'll more fully utilize the TV that you paid for.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be interested to see how upscaling is doing. This is a little bit of a diversion, but as I continue to occasionally watch like old television that's 30, 40 years old, I do wonder, how would it handle that older, blurry, taped content? Not necessarily blurry, but if it wasn't actually filmed and they haven't restored it from the film, that old content that was only stored on videotape from years ago is pretty bad.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how that kind of upscaling is going, because that would be, to me, that's like the golden ticket. That's the thing that would be incredible to take old films that have been not restored, or that maybe you have on an old DVD.
Right.
And what can they do to that to make it look incredible?
Right. We'll have to wait and see. Okay. The other thing that I did want to ask, and I asked LG, but I forgot to ask some of the others, is what about Auracast? Everyone who listens to this show knows how much I'm interested in Auracast. And the new LG TVs support it. A lot of their other audio things support it. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, a TV that supports Auracast means you could potentially be using... There's two obvious use cases that jump out to me. One is multiple sets of headphones. If you and your partner are both trying to watch TV, but somebody needs it a lot louder than the other, or you're both just trying to watch a movie after the kids have gone to bed and you don't want the explosions waking everybody up, multiple people connected to one TV with Bluetooth headphones. Another possibility that we're going to start to see is Bluetooth speakers being used as surround sound speakers, because Auracast will enable that, because you can just connect a whole bunch of speakers to the same source. So that's what I'm looking forward to with Auracast in the TV land.
And as we've been here, we've been looking around the floor for stuff that supported Auracast. And as we were discussing with a vendor in kind of the startup area yesterday, it's just not here yet. So it's nice to see it in a widely available line of consumer products now, but that's an exception.
It is. Like, there are some devices that we saw that have higher end chips in them and stuff that are supporting it because it's just baked in. Like, if you're building a set of headphones and using the latest Qualcomm chip for it, it supports it. But the other problem that we're seeing is that a lot of manufacturers aren't calling it Auracast, or they have it,
of course,
but they're not mentioning it at all anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. One more brand to talk about. It's Hisense. Their big focus was, OMG, look at the world's biggest micro RGB TV. And it's huge. It's 116 inches.
It's big.
It's so big. And it is pretty, and it is really bright.
Yep.
It was the best looking micro RGB TV we saw, I think.
Was it better than LG's? I don't know. I'm hard pressed to make that call, but it was great. It was great. And the idea here is that, your wall becomes the television, basically.
Yeah.
This is the kind of television technology that can be essentially matrixed across any surface, and they show it in traditional rectangular forms.
Oh, see, now you're talking about the micro LED TV.
Oh, geez, I'm already confusing this stuff.
Because I agree with you. But we'll come back to the micro LEDs. We're starting with that giant one that was right out in front of the booth. That was their big 116-inch micro RGB.
Okay. Yep. And that was beautiful.
It was.
And it has nice surround speakers built into it now. That's one of the things that we were seeing in TVs. TVs get a bad rap for having terrible, terrible, terrible audio built in.
Well, they don't get a bad rap. Like, they deserve a bad rap because they are generally terrible.
Right. So I'm happy when I see vendors trying to improve that experience. Because not everybody, after they drop several $1,000s on a television, is then going to do what I foolishly, happily did and dump another $2,500 on speakers.
Right.
So,
but they should, if they can.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So let's actually, before we jump into micro LED, you love their projectors. Do you want to talk about their projectors?
Yeah, sure. So I have always had a soft spot for the Hisense short throw laser projector. And when it first came out, it was a single laser, and then they ultimately made them all 3 laser. So you have the RGB separate lasers. And over the years, it's gotten better and better and better. I think for the price, which is about $3,000, $3,500, something like that, the ability to get a picture up to 120, sometimes larger inches from a projector like that can be just like a foot away from your wall is hard to beat. And there are other manufacturers doing this, and it's not just Hisense, but I've always found Hisense is well priced, and I've liked the overall look of it. They used to sell them with a screen, making it just kind of a no-brainer from my perspective, because it came with the screen. You didn't have to go screen shopping. It was matched to something that was specifically designed to work with their TV, like a light rejecting screen. Now they don't offer them with screens. I think they do sell screens, but everybody that I'm seeing online that's buying these is going to different manufacturers to get their best option for a screen that you can find. So I don't know that I would go to Hisense for the screen anymore. And they even mentioned that it's a different vendor that is manufacturing their screens now. I think it looks great. You and I still disagree on this. I was very happy with the overall look of it. I would argue, and you counter, then why does it this way every year? I would argue that the content didn't show off the full capabilities of it. And we, in fact, saw other TVs like at TCL, where even on their beautiful
mini
SQD TV, the image had been teleassigned incorrectly, so the frame rate was off and things looked jerky.
Yeah.
And we were seeing that a little bit of jerkiness and lag in that projector. And it's hard for me to know, is it the content or is it the projector?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been struggling to come up with words for what I don't like about the picture quality of these. But it's 2 things. One, high-speed motion just looks wrong to me for some reason. And I can't clearly define what looks wrong about it, but it just doesn't look right. And the other one, I did come up with a word, but it's probably still not a word that makes a lot of sense. It looks too crispy. Like you can see too much contrast in the details and stuff, but not the contrast in the way that we're used to seeing it on like an OLED.
Right.
It's just like crispy and spiky is almost how it feels to me.
Yeah, maybe too sharp almost.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
but you're not seeing banding, right?
No.
So that's not, it's not that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably sharpness, like they cranked the sharpness to 11, and I just don't like it. So let's talk a little bit about micro LEDs. That's what you're.
That's what I was confusing. Yeah.
So micro LED is the future. It's been the future for a while, and it's still the future. Micro LED is what will eventually replace OLED TVs. Because micro LED is the LED way of doing individual pixel lighting other than OLED. In the past, and the reason why it's still just in the future is it is very expensive and it hasn't been very high resolution. Now they're starting to solve some of those problems, and LG had a 4K micro LED TV on display. Do you remember how big it was? It was large, like 100.
I do not remember the size, no.
Maybe it's 130 inches. It was very big. And that is one of the really cool things about micro LED is you can make them enormous because, as you were starting to describe, you're basically building them in smaller panels.
Yeah, it's infinitely scalable.
Right. So we saw a few of them, and I 100% agree with you. LG's look the best.
Yep. Yep. And this is the first time we've actually been able to get up close to this TV. We've been talking about this for years. They used to call it the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at the end of a roped off area. You couldn't get that close to it.
Right.
Now you go right up to it. And even right up, you can start to see the pixels, but it looks great.
It looks so good. It looks so good. Like, it gives you the contrast that we like out of OLED. And that smooth vision that we see out of OLED. And the LG one absolutely looked the best. The Hisense one, we could all see the panels in dark screens or in dark images, but it's coming. And the LG guy wasn't ready to say, yes, it's coming this year or anything like that. But when I talked to a representative at LG, he was saying, we're getting close to consumer models now.
Yeah.
So maybe a couple of years?
And so that's really the key, right? This isn't available in the consumer space yet. We see this technology in use all the time in commercial and industrial applications. It's not dissimilar from what signage is using nowadays.
Yeah.
And we've seen the Samsung booth wrapped in it years ago, right? I mean, so the technology exists, but like you say, you talk about it in terms of resolution. What it's really about is miniaturization.
Yeah.
Right. Getting the pixels small enough so that you can, in a size that one could think of as a television, actually get a 4K resolution.
Well, but that's not even really the size they're targeting. Like, one of the things that I thought was funny about the LG display is in their video loop, it was mostly showing a gigantic living room sort of place.
Right. You looking through a portal or a window into a gigantic living room space.
With an enormous television on the wall.
Yes.
There's no way to know, but prospectively, it was way bigger than the massive U-shaped couch in the room. This was, I don't know, 175-inch television or something like that. And that is the other thing that micro LED gives you, because you can make them as big as you want. And so we really will be able to say, turn this whole wall into my television.
Right.
And have it look fantastic.
Right. And actually, that's if I'm alive when that kind of stuff is available and hopefully affordable to me, that's what I would want. I would want the whole wall. I wouldn't want let's make this square or rectangular area a TV. No, I would want to plaster the whole wall with this stuff so that it looked like you could make it look like the wall's just not there.
Right.
You're just looking into this space, whatever it is. And it's really cool technology. Total Recall is one of the early movies I remember kind of suggesting this kind of technology being available. And I'm here for it. I want it.
Few more years.
I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to afford it. But
well, I'm hoping that you're going to live quite a while. So,
me too.
I think it'll happen in your lifetime.
Okay. Good.
For sure.
Good.
All right. Anything else on TVs before we move on?
No, except that there aren't as many here as we're used to seeing. And one vendor that we didn't really talk about it, except in the quick mention that I just had, was Samsung. Because Samsung's not at the convention center this time. They're doing an kind of off the beaten path demo space of their own in conjunction with CES, as part of CES, but not on one of the CES official floors.
Right.
And that's really unusual because they were a huge presence here for years and years and years. So there's other vendors filling in the space, but it doesn't seem like it's TV vendors. I mean, we went and we saw the three big ones.
Right.
And Sony's here, but I don't even know if they're showing TVs.
They're not. The Sony booth is just showing their new car with Honda.
Yeah. So we used to joke that this was the hall where we came to see all the TVs. And we did, but there's nowhere near like the TV screens and as many vendors as we're used to seeing peddling them.
Yeah. And I feel like maybe part of that is because they all recognize that, okay, the newest technology we've got is micro RGB, but it's actually not that great. It's not that it's not that great. It's just, I don't want to rush out and replace an OLED with a micro RGB TV.
I see like zero reason for going down that path if you have a good TV now.
Yeah. I mean, like the representative at LG said, the only real reason it makes sense is if you really want to go with a massive, 95-inch television. And a 95-inch OLED is going to cost you $25,000.
Yeah, but do we know what these are going to cost when they're that big? I mean, I that's the thing that I think we don't know enough about yet. I don't think we can do a really good size by size, type by type comparison in the industry yet.
Yeah. Well, we do know because Hisense, they did end up releasing their 116-inch micro RGB TV from last year, and that 116-inch model was $25,000. A 93-inch OLED from LG is $25,000.
Yeah, okay.
And I would expect that Hisense TV will be less expensive this year.
They're both way out of reach for nearly everyone.
But those are the only couple of examples we have to compare pricing on these technologies. Okay, so let's move on to audio. Kind of a weird year for audio too. Like I said, I was mostly looking for Auracast, was not seeing it in a ton of places, but did see a couple of interesting open ear headphone options. So the first one I want to talk about is from Shox. Shox is very well known in the running space because they basically became the manufacturer of bone conducting headphones. So bone conducting headphones don't have anything plugging up your ears, making them a whole lot safer to run in outside when you can hear cars that might be about to run you over.
Right.
So they've got a new set of earbuds that are not bone conducting. They do fit sort of in your ear, but they wrap around the top of your ear like a lot of other headphones do. And then they just have a thing that's kind of resting a little bit into your ear, but not anywhere close to like in your ear canal the way traditional earbuds would be. The big thing they're going for here is they're super comfortable. You know, if you've got AirPods or Pixel Buds or something like that crammed into your ears, eventually that gets uncomfortable.
Yep.
And these don't. Like, I can't say firsthand from hours of experience. I've worn them for like a minute. But the guy at the booth said, I can wear these around all day. And I believe him. They do feel really comfortable. They look a little weird, but they feel really, really comfortable. So, but then the question is, but then what am I doing? Like, are these really still geared towards runners and things like that? And what about noise cancellation? These are going a little bit different route. They were very upfront. This is not active noise cancellation the way that you're used to in AirPods Pro or anything like that. They're calling it noise reduction. And that is what it is. You put it on, even on this crazy loud show floor, and you can still hear a lot of noise, or you can hear a lot of the people talking still really well. But just like that general noise that you hear, just really toned down a lot. And so like I put them on, turn on the noise reduction to maximum level. The show floor kind of quiets down a little bit, but I could still hear the guy that I was talking to.
Right.
And so I asked him, like, so do you recommend that, like, you run with this noise reduction turned on? And he's like, I wouldn't. Like, I still wouldn't do that. That's probably still not the safest idea.
That makes sense.
But very comfy for very long, extended periods of time. If you're turning on that noise reduction, you're getting 6 hours of charge out of these. If you turn that off, you're getting 12 hours of battery life, which is pretty phenomenal for a set of earbuds. So these are coming out like now-ish, basically. I don't have the date in here, but I think they're basically available now or will be very soon. A little bit pricier, though, at $250, which I think might be a little bit harder for some people to swallow when they're not really the do-everything earbuds the way an AirPods Pro or Pixel Buds might be, because they don't have that active noise cancellation.
Yeah.
So another really fun one from a company called Earfun. So they have to be fun, right?
Absolutely.
These ones are also open ear. They look like clip-on earrings in a way that looks a little bit ridiculous, but I don't know. Like, do we really care what earbuds look like anymore? Like when AirPods first came out, everybody was like, it looks like you've got cigarettes hanging out of your ears.
Exactly. And it
But now
still
we're all
does,
used to it.
but we're used to it.
Right.
Exactly. And honestly, are these the ones that you tried on and when I was with you?
Today?
Yeah.
No, that was the Shox Open Fit Pro Buds.
Okay.
These were the ones that we saw at PepCom the first night.
Right.
That were just like black dots that just kind of clipped onto the side of your ears.
Yeah.
Again, my thought was, that doesn't look comfortable at all. But they were. They stay in place. Like I jumped around in their booth and stuff, and they didn't fall off, but they still didn't feel like they were pinching my ears to death.
Right.
Which I thought was pretty impressive. I can't really give you a great description of how well they sounded because it was a really loud environment, and these are open ear headphones. So with any open ear headphones, you don't expect them to be absolute top-notch audio quality.
Right.
But they're sounded good enough from what I was hearing on the show floor, but would love to hear them in a normal environment. But these use brand new top-end chip from Snapdragon, and so they have every feature known to man. Importantly, Auracast, but also these things have fantastic battery life with this new chip. They have AI translation built in, and these earbuds were under $100. I don't know how, but they are, and their regular looking earbuds were, they were given awards by CNET and stuff last year for how good they sound, the value. So I think Earfun, while it sounds like one of these knockoff brands from China or whatever, they're looking pretty legit at this point. And
interesting.
And I think is definitely a company that people should be looking at if they just don't want to spend $250 on a set of earbuds.
Yeah.
So cool. All right. One more audio section. LG had a huge section in their booth dedicated to their X-Boom line of audio devices because will.i.am is partnered with them, and I don't really care about these celebrity partnerships.
Yeah.
But what I was curious about is, what are the features of these things? And they have earbuds, which are the X-Boom Buds, Buds Lite, and Buds Plus. And then they
Buds Lite.
Oh, God, I didn't think about it like that. That's terrible. They shouldn't name them that. Wow. But then they also have some Bluetooth speakers, kind of like the rugged line, the waterproof line, and then the really big ones. And all of their speakers have Auracast. And when I asked them about Auracast, he said, yep, they've all got them. So you can use them all around your house like you would Sonos. And it was weird. Like, I was not expecting them to describe it as a multi-room audio Sonos-like experience. But it's correct. Like, that is a great use case for Auracast, is being able to pair these all over the place and listen to one source on lots of Bluetooth speakers all at the same time.
Or potentially multiple casts across sets of speakers.
Right. And they do still support, like, taking two of the same speaker and putting them into a stereo pair. You can do that too. And then the Stage 501, that's the biggest speaker that they had there. It's also a karaoke machine. It even has an XLR it has an XLR input, of course, for the microphones, but also a guitar input if you wanted to play along on guitar. And this was another use case for AI that actually works, actually makes sense. They said, we have AI in this karaoke speaker where it will analyze whatever music source you're using. It can be Spotify or Apple Music, whatever you want, and it can figure out the vocals and decrease them by 50% or 100% entirely, just automatically. It's such an awesome use case for karaoke speakers.
It is. Did they have any demos running? Because in eliminating vocals entirely sometimes means like replacing them with what should still be there in the background, but you might not otherwise hear.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like how they're handling, because you and I edit audio, and we know what audio looks like both as a sound curve and in, I forget what they call it, but the heat map where you're actually seeing the
histogram.
Histogram. And you can see the squeak and you can see, but correcting that is really, really tricky. So I'm curious how they're doing that to how they're patching so that it doesn't sound like something's missing.
Right. Maybe we should stop back on our way out.
All right. We should do that.
But the Buds Plus, their earbud line, I did want to point out that the Buds Plus, I really didn't catch that beer reference when I was talking to the guy. That is their top of the line earbuds, and those do also support Auracast. So we've got a little bit of Auracast out there. Audio was a little bit weird this year, but it wasn't anywhere close to as weird as gaming at CES this year. So weird. So last year, it was all about handheld gaming. There was the new generation of processor from AMD, and that was going into all of these new devices that were peppered throughout the year. Like some of them, like you pointed out, didn't come out until late in the year. The Legion Go 2 didn't come out until November.
Right.
No one is talking about handheld gaming devices this year. Like no one. There's for sure gaming stuff here, and there are a lot of gaming monitors, but in terms of gaming devices and computers, especially in the handheld space, there's basically nothing. There are some gaming laptops, of course, but that's pretty normal. But weirdly, Razer didn't even have new gaming laptops, and Razer always introduces new gaming laptops at CES. I know, because they're always gorgeous, and they're always the laptops that I want to buy, but don't want to spend $3,000 on.
Right.
And they didn't have any.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of shocked by that. But you and I did go to the Razer booth to see what else they did have.
We did.
Because they always have some interesting projects they're working on. And most of them, maybe not most of them, a lot of them don't actually make it to market. So many of them have not made it to market. But they were really focused on AI, of course. They were really, like, basically entirely focused
Everything
on
was AI.
Everything was AI. They didn't launch new laptops, but they did launch new AI workstation computers that are enormous, like physically enormous machines.
Yep.
For AI developers, but that's not gaming. We don't really care about that. So, but they did have other AI focused things for gaming and just for normal life. So let's actually start with Project Motoko, because they sat us down and like the first words out of the representative's mouth were, "This is a project, but it's absolutely coming out. Like it's real. We're doing this." And what the pitch here is, everybody wants an AI, well, maybe not everybody. Lots of people want an AI assistant to wear around. And what most companies are doing is building it into glasses, but glasses don't work for everybody, especially people who wear glasses. They don't want to have a different set of glasses and stuff like that.
Right. And really the only place it's been done, I think, I don't even know if it's been done well, but in visors, right? It's probably more prominent and readily available in visors than it is in glasses because of battery life issues and because of all of the electronics, the cameras, the processing, everything else.
Right. So they're taking a different approach, and Project Motoko from Razer is an AI companion built into a headset. So think big, huge earphones.
I'm going to correct you. I don't want to call this a companion because we'll talk about that later. This is an AI assistant.
That is probably a more accurate way of describing it. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's, of course, got microphones to listen into your questions, and you can talk to it, and it talks back through the headphones. But it also has cameras, and it has 2 of them. And to make it an even more natural experience, the cameras are at eye level as you're wearing them. So it's seeing what you're seeing in the exact same way that you're seeing it, instead of it being off in the corner of your eyeglasses frame or whatever. And like you mentioned, because they're large headphones, a lot more room for multiple cameras and a lot more room for batteries.
Yep.
So they're not official yet, so they're not giving us real world battery numbers and stuff yet. But then they gave us a demonstration, and some of it was gaming, like, hey, what sort of loadout should I use for this gun in this game? And it's like, yeah, you're gonna be sniping, so do this to your sniper rifle and stuff like that. But also the more lifestyle focused AI situations that we're used to seeing. So they had a demonstration of like a kitchen counter that had some meat and spices and stuff like that, and said, hey, Motoko, give me a recipe. And, it could do things like that. And with the cameras, it can also record content if you're a content producer, which I think everybody is nowadays. And when I first thought about it, I was like, I don't know, like, do I really want to wear giant headphones around all over the place? That's not typically my style, but so many other people do.
People do.
So many people do.
Yeah. I don't think it's that unusual. You brought up a good point. These have forward-facing cameras on them that aren't that obvious because they're black lenses on a black frame. And is there some way of indicating to people around you that you are recording right now? And so she did show us that there's an LED next to the cameras to let you know that this thing is on. I think we need to see a common standard there. I would expect that everyone would be using a green light,
right?
Because that's probably the most common way that devices indicate that the camera is on.
Yeah, exactly.
But, so there are privacy concerns potentially. There were cool use cases. The use case you didn't mention that I thought was most compelling, not gaming related, but I'm in a restaurant and there's a menu in another language and I might have an idea of what I want to order, but I don't know if they have it. And just being able to look at something, say, hey, and in this image of this menu, do they offer such and such? Or what entrees do they have? And be able to kind of converse with your assistant that way in a really useful capacity.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm glad that this is the product that is actually going to become real for sure, because I liked it a lot better. There's so many more use cases for it. Yeah, I really like this Project Motoko from Razer.
Yeah, and you're glad this is definitely going to become real in contrast to what exactly?
In contrast to the other one that I think we should call an AI companion.
It is.
Oh boy. So this is Project Ava. And
actually, I want to take a second there because we talked about Project Ava last year. Ava was their AI assistant for gaming, and it really rubbed me in the wrong way, as it did with most of the press that got a hold of the demo, because it was essentially presented in a way that made it feel like an AI cheat for your gaming.
Right. And they presented it as an AI coach, but most of the interpretation of that was, so it's going to cheat for me.
Right. And this was where they were last year. So they have kind of transformed this into a different form, to be redundant.
Yes, it's definitely a different physical form, but they also, when they gave gaming examples of using this, they didn't give any examples like that anymore. They were like,
right.
Like the loadout example and stuff like that. They, last year they were showing League of Legends, the most common esports game, and asking it to tell them how to be a better player. No examples like that in this year's booth demo of this functionality.
So what is this?
So now, instead of being like an Alexa looking thing that sits on your desk, it is a glass tube with a holographic cartoon person in it. It still has a camera built in. It's still got a microphone and speaker and stuff. And then just plugs in via USB-C to your laptop or your desktop. And then it's your AI companion that you can ask anything, not just gaming stuff, anything. How does my outfit look for today? And they have a couple of AI personas, a man and a woman, and they look like cartoon video game characters that, the one that you're probably, if you've already seen this online, you've almost for sure seen the girl because she looks like an anime girl with the ruffled skirt and the boots and all of that stuff.
And the cat ears.
Right. And the guy looks like, a superhero sort of physique and all of that stuff. Calls you champ nonstop. It was so annoying.
And it's working with third-party AI services. So it can work with OpenAI. It can work with Gemini. I think they said it could work with Bard. That might be it right now.
Well, when they were showing it to us, it was using Grok, which is maybe why it was so horribly annoying.
That's what I meant. Grok.
Yeah. I would turn that off right away and switch to any other LLM. But yeah, so it is an AI assistant that's not just gaming focused. You can use this for anything. You could, they had a video of it. Like, I just have this in my bedroom and it gives me my wake up. Like, hey, good morning. Here's what you've got going on. Maybe this is how you should dress for the day. Except that it wasn't plugged into a computer in that video. I don't know if you noticed that when it does actually need to be plugged into a computer to work.
Yeah.
It's not a standalone speaker.
Yeah.
But when plugged into the computer, in addition to the typical audio and video cues that you're getting through the physical device, it's also sampling your screen 1 frame per second to get context there about what it is that you're doing, whether it's playing a game or watching a movie or working on a spreadsheet. And it can give you AI assistance to all of that stuff too. I can't imagine working on a spreadsheet for work and hearing this AI assistant be like, yo, champ, what a great spreadsheet. Like, you could totally take this to the next level, bro. If you like, it was really annoying.
It was very annoying.
Yeah. I don't understand this device and why we need it. I don't understand why it needs to be a device.
Yeah, I think they're hitting 2 things here. And for me, this hit all the wrong buttons.
Yeah.
I mean, all the wrong buttons. Just the night before seeing this, you and I and some other colleagues we've met or been talking with here at the show, we're discussing this whole idea of AI companions and people starting to form relationships of whatever nature with AI companions. This is your buddy. This is your pal. This is your girlfriend, maybe, or thinking of it as a substitute in that capacity. And so I don't like that aspect of it. And they're totally playing into that. They're 100% playing into that.
Yeah.
And that really bugs me.
It feels icky.
It feels icky. Yeah, it feels icky. I also, and this can totally be tuned, but I don't like how any of these models are just like fawning all over you when they give you advice on stuff.
Right.
And telling you how amazing you can be. And, oh, yes, you're absolutely right. You know what we could really do? And it's just like, no, just talk like a normal entity.
Right.
Right? Like no friend would ever talk to me like that.
You're absolutely right, Richard.
Thanks, Josh. We could take this to the next level, champ.
Oh my gosh. Let's take this to the next level and move on from Razer because that's really the main, like they had a chair with haptics. Do you want to talk about that?
There's one more thing I want to mention. The other thing that really bugged me about this, you mentioned that it could be monitoring spreadsheets and stuff like that. And as they're implementing it right now, and granted, this is still a project it's all not hypothetical, but this is research for them. Who knows what a final product might look like when they come out with this thing. But they currently have in some menu somewhere, buried in some menu somewhere, the ability to holistically turn screen monitoring on or off. That you need to go actively decide and remember to turn this off if you don't, say, want it paying attention to what you're doing when you're logging into your bank.
Right.
Or looking up some medical information or find any financial or health or any private information whatsoever. Or maybe looking at stuff on your computer that you don't want other people knowing that you're looking at, right?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, it's just, it has access to everything unless you remember to turn it off. And it's analyzing everything to learn more about you and your habits and to be able to help you with whatever it is. I think it should work I think it should be app specific. And I think it should be something that you have to explicitly enable in specific apps. And unless they do that, I think the privacy concerns here are going to be huge, massive. And the other thing we didn't talk about is it again, unless you tell it not to, it's always watching and always listening.
Yeah.
Always watching.
Right. Because there is a camera there.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't think what we saw this week is what it will ship.
Yeah. What we saw won't
anything like
come
this ships
like
at
this,
all.
but still.
Yeah.
Yep.
So one other thing that I wanted to talk about with gaming is like, I didn't really expect AMD to launch a new version of the Z series processors that are used in handhelds, because last year was the Z2 series, and it was 2 years prior to that they did the Z1 series. And so maybe that has something to do with the lack of handheld announcements, but they do have new processors. Intel has new processors that they announced at CES, and we have seen handhelds with like these laptop style processors in them. And as I looked back over the spec sheet of all of the new processors in the new AMD line, I noticed one new one that stood out to me. It's the Ryzen AI Max Plus 388. And what stood out to me is this chip, like this table that I was looking at, it had columns for how many CPU cores does it have, a column for how many graphical cores it has, and then the graphical teraflops that it could achieve. And the 388 line had some of the lowest numbers of CPU cores. It was like 8 and 12, I think. But it had 40 GPU cores in it, which was as many as the highest range chip in the line.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw that and thought, I don't know, maybe this is the direction they want to move with these handheld devices, because it's even more, like it's definitely more powerful than even the Z2 Extreme, the highest end of the latest Z series processors. But it's a more expensive processor. So maybe they're going that direction, but it feels like, and maybe this is me putting too many things together because not all of this could have been planned for, but I expect a bad year for PC gaming. We don't, like, the processors aren't dramatically better this year, and no one can get RAM anymore. So RAM, the cost of RAM is going through the roof. So building your own PC is going to be prohibitively expensive in a lot of cases. And it's likely to draw to increase the cost of consoles too, because they all need RAM. Everybody's fighting for RAM. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we see more price increases on the PlayStation 5, the Xbox, and even the Nintendo Switch. Wouldn't be surprised at all if all of them increase in price this year. Which then led me to wonder, so what should we tell people to do if they have an aging gaming device and they want something new this year? My first recommendation would be, if you want a console, buy it now, because I do think that they're going to go up in price as the year goes on.
Ouch.
And if that isn't going to work out for you, well, maybe this does end up being the year that video game streaming actually starts to take off, because then you don't have to pay for the hardware.
Right.
And NVIDIA's got a great offering for it. The Xbox offering has gotten a lot better over the last couple of months as they've increased the screen resolution available. So maybe this ends up being a really great year for game streaming and a really terrible year for any sort of gaming hardware across the board. I hope not. I hope to be wrong.
Yeah.
But the combination of what AI is doing to the hardware market, we've still got a crazy tariff situation. The cost of these devices is all just going through the roof. So it's unfortunate. All right, Richard, that's it for the gaming section. What's one other really cool thing that you saw on the show floor?
Yeah, as most people know, I'm most interested in the smart home tech as I'm walking around here. And, a vendor I've become more and more aware of over the last year or two is Akara, a Chinese vendor that makes smart home devices. And this year they came out with 2 new devices that are really kind of pushing the limits of new technology from Apple in what's otherwise kind of become a commodity category of locks and thermostats. And so for me, it's a tie between those. They came out with a new lock. I talked about this earlier today, actually, on Daily Tech News Show. The lock works with everything. It's basically Matter over Thread. So as long as you have some device like a hub for your Amazon, Google, or Apple ecosystem, it's gonna work with it, and it lets you open your door any way you want to, with a key, with a code, with a temporary one-time password, with your finger, with a tap of your phone, or if you have one of the newer iPhones with the UWB chip in it, you can just walk up to your door, and as you approach the door, it unlocks. And as you walk away, it locks. And it's smart enough to know if you're inside or outside, and if you're just passing the door versus walking up to it. Really, really cool technology. And it's already out. It's available now for $270 on Amazon, which is not a bad price for everything that's backed into that. The thermostat is using some brand new technology, actually not brand new technology, but not previously released through a consumer device product, in a consumer product called Adaptive Temperature from Apple, that uses everything Apple knows about you through your private information on your device, like your calendar and your schedule and your habits, and whether you're in sleep mode or not, and whether anyone's home or not, and uses all of that input to control the temperature in your home, which is way more than you're going to get from a Nest or something like that.
Right.
And it's a brilliant application of data that's available about you and using that to improve your lifestyle. That does not need a hub because it has its own hub built in. Oh, and by the way, it can act as a screen to see who's at the door and unlock the door if you also have an Akara lock and doorbell. That will be priced competitively. They're not saying prices yet, but I expect that to come in just under $300 sometime later, probably in the first quarter or second quarter. So cool smart home devices, nothing like just amazing brand new category or anything like that, but really nice uses of new technology in evolving products that we're used to already seeing.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm going to cheat a little bit and go with something that I think is really practical from a gaming perspective, but it's a laptop. So Lenovo has a new Legion laptop with an OLED rollable display. We've seen these rollable OLEDs in various shapes and sizes across different use cases over the last few years. And in this case, they have a 16-inch OLED display that then you can push a button and it expands horizontally out both ways to give you a 21:9 screen instead of just a 16:9 screen.
Nice.
On your laptop.
Like an ultra wide experience.
Exactly. So, from the gaming perspective, like having an ultra wide display can be really nice for different games where you want a wider field of view for sure.
Right.
If you're watching movies in 21:9, that's an awesome aspect ratio because it's what most movies are filmed in. And even if you're just doing boring spreadsheet work, like sometimes having that extra screen real estate for multiple spreadsheets and stuff like that.
Yep.
It's really nice. And to have that in a laptop that just fits the normal 16-inch form factor is really cool. It's also not a real product. Like, it's not for sale yet, and who knows if it will be. But if they make it, like, that seems like a really excellent use case for a rollable OLED display.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, you sort of already shared your announcement here, but can you tell us again what else you've been doing at CES that other people should go and listen to?
GTNS.
Exactly.
So today I was on the Daily Tech News Show with Tom Merritt and had a really good time just kind of talking about some of the things that I saw on the floor, the things that I thought were of note. That lock was one of the items. Check that out. That is Thursday the 8th, and it's already live on YouTube, and the audio will probably be posted by the time that you hear this.
Absolutely. All right. Well, 700 episodes.
700.
We didn't really do much to plan for it being 700, but it is a pretty amazing milestone. And it's so fun to be able to celebrate 700 at CES.
At CES, which was coincidental.
Yeah. Yeah. It was not something we really planned for, like when we tried to get episode 666 on Halloween.
Episode timings to make sure that Halloween. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, this is great. I think I've been here with you for probably about 500 of those, if you consider that I started around 140 something and have missed a fair amount, but you keep the show going, which is awesome. I don't know if we should take bets on how long it's going to be till 701, because we both tend to get sick after we've been at CES. So hopefully that doesn't happen. And we will need to get back to our lives a bit, but we look forward to getting back to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to do it for our main CES episode. We're not done. There's still so much to see at CES. So we'll be back with the next episode soon, covering everything else that we saw while we were on the ground here in Las Vegas. But that's going to do it for episode 700. I'm Josh Pollard. He's Richard Gunther. Thanks for listening to the Entertainment 2.0 podcast. Adios.
Goodbye.